look, just very briefly, Mr. Chair, and I don't think that the panel ever envisaged that it would be open slather and that you could build anything you like under this and always minimum standards, because looking at the panel's recommendations, the panel considers that non-regulatory methods such as the Auckland Design Manual and other guidance materials and processes will be more effective and targeted way of achieving good design than the mandatory design statements. And then it goes on to say that they're concerned that the council will start to exercise undue influence over design proposals. And I understand exactly why the panel came to these conclusions, because they are concerned, as both colleagues Webster and Cooper have pointed out, that they are concerned with affordability. And it does strike me as somewhat ironic that those who were against the affordable, or voted to retain the affordable housing section of this, are now wanting to look to further ways of actually adding costs into the development process.
You're confusing affordable housing with cheap and nasty.
Councillor Mike.
We all make comments?
Yeah, I know.
I know.
Really?
I always value Councillor.
So, yep, that's right.
Cheaper to run later, Dick.
So, thank you.
Yeah, always value it.
Councillor Dick, thank you very much for that. And Councillor Chris F.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To use the words of the staff, a fine balance. I feel very much in that fine balance. Interestingly, for me, it's the name of my favourite novel. But I agonised over this issue over the weekend. I worried that by taking this position, it creates confusion in terms of it would have been much easier to have just gone with political expediency and just gone with the flow on this one. But I want to articulate my reasons why I've moved it. Why should somebody who's building a house in Pokeno have a different set of standards from their neighbours who are building a house in Ramarama? We are the largest council by a long shot in New Zealand, and we have to show leadership. Last week we asked Stephen Town, whom I have great confidence in, to take this issue up with central government. We have this responsibility on our shoulders, not just to be arguing these for the people of Auckland, but for the whole of the New Zealand population. Where I'm coming from is actually trying to see some standardisation. We've got this major construction boom ahead of us. We know that we're going to need to bring in tradespeople from around the world in order to meet the objectives of the unitary plan. By continuing to create a whole series of different standards, it is going to become more complicating for the whole of the building industry. I want to see central government pick up the challenge that I know Stephen Town will take to them. I want to see 6-star designs for everybody in New Zealand, not just the people of Auckland. And to me, the leadership that we should be showing today is putting our money where our mouth is in terms of going with that advocacy that we need to central government, and to say what you have at the moment is grossly insufficient. We want to see some improvement here, and we want these for everyone in New Zealand, not just the people of Auckland, because too often the rest of New Zealand says, you know, Jaffas, they're just looking after themselves, they're not worried about the rest. We've been able to make considerable progress on the transport issues by having common data and working and sitting down with central government, with ATAP. We need to be able to do the same thing here in the construction sector, and we need to be bringing in greater investment. We need to bring more expertise. I've struggled because of perhaps the process along the way with the unitary plan, that I want to be part of passing this unitary plan because I watch my children and their children unable to get into housing. We've heard that message from everyone sitting around the table. So this is just one of those issues that I think that we actually have to rise to the challenge of looking ahead and not looking back. Yes, we've got some very poor examples in Auckland of the type of construction we don't want to see. Yes, we must play a leadership role in terms of having sustainable design for the future, but let's give that gift to everyone in New Zealand, and I trust, and I'd like Stephen Town to take the call as to what intentions he's got, because last week we did request the CEO advocate for changes to the Building Act and associate regulations to achieve improved sustainable design outcomes. Whether it can be improved in terms of urgency, the addition of the word urgency, I know that my colleague Councillor Quacks is happy to see inserted there as well, but I would appreciate it if Stephen Town can just outline what he's planning to do, because this is the chance to do it better for the future.
Are you happy, Stephen?
What we'll do, Mr Chair, is we'll actually sit down with MB and others and actually work out the best way to approach the conversation rather than rushing in and demanding that Minister X or Y makes changes. Let's build up a case and we'll do exactly what we're doing with ATAP and involve officials in that ground-up conversation.
Very good. Thank you. Right, Councillor Cathy, last speaker, and then we're going to vote.
Well, thank you. I'll be very quick. I've been listening to my colleagues. We've rejected the design statements. If we reject the sustainability design rules, we're effectively throwing them up, Councillor Cooper, and that is not what the people of Auckland want. They are looking to us to make...
Stop. I've got this noise over on my right-hand side, which is trying to raise a standing order. Councillor Fletcher did not speak. It was not a right of reply. It was her opportunity to speak in the debate. Thank you. Councillor Cathy, carry on.
I'm done.
Oh, well, that was awesome.
He said it was a right of reply.
That was about the best end to a debate I've ever had.
Thank
Right,
you.
let's put it, division.
By division, the motion on the screen. Your Worship.
Against.
Councillor and I.
For.
Councillor Brewer.
For.
Councillor Casey.
No.
Councillor Cashmore.
Yes.
Councillor Clow. No. Councillor Cooper.
Aye.
Councillor Darby.
Against.
Councillor Fletcher.
For.
Deputy Mayor Hulse.
No.
Councillor Crum.
For.
Councillor Lee.
No.
Councillor Penrose.
For.
Councillor Quacks.
For.
Councillor Stewart.
For.
Councillor Sir John Walker.
For.
Councillor Wayne Walker.
No.
Councillor Watson.
Against.
Councillor Webster.
For.
Councillor Wood.
For.
It's past 12:08. Right, now we'll move on to the next break at some stage.
Very good decision.
Okay, next topic that we are reporting back on is...
Going to have a break sometime?
Just, Councillor Wayne, you can just sit there for a while.
Oh, you know.
We started at 11.
Yes.
We did not start at 9:30, just to remind you. Right, we're just warming up, so get used to it.
So in the original, so we're back to residential. This is the issue of front boundary walls and fences.
Front boundaries.
Topic 059 and 063. So the page references are on the original agenda. We're looking at pages 75 to 79. That's the content relating to the residential topic. 75 to 79 of the original agenda, and on the handout of the from this morning, it's page 12. So, staff, we're recommending a deletion here. This is a slightly tricky one in the sense that we were recommending a rejection, but in the alternative solution, staff were recommending a 2-metre fence height. And I think the concerns of the governing body were perhaps that the 2 metre was excessive and that we should revert to our case at the hearings. So we do have a slide to pop up in a second that shows you what the council's case was at the hearings.
To make it clear.
To make it clear. So The panel had recommended that there are no front boundary fence controls at all, which will mean that you could build a 2.5 metre high front boundary fence or wall. Staff were recommending that that is rejected, and the alternative solution would be a 2 metre high front boundary fence or wall. Concern of the governing body perhaps was that that was too generous, so this was the council's case if you wish to go back to the council's case.
I think that's the best idea. Make it clean.
Yep. I'll move that we go back to the closing
second.
position.
So we have specific wording if that is where you wish to go, by way of a resolution
second that.
with reasons
Can
as
we-
required.
Right, can we get the resolution up?
Okay.
So the reject resolution, and then what you are proposing that we go back to, which is 1.2. Right, it's moved and seconded. I think everyone understands the general view on this. Councillors, we want to have a big debate about this?
Just put it.
Sorry, Mr.
Want
Mayor.
to put it?
Where's 1.2?
Councillor Cam?
Oh, just some questions
Yeah,
as
sure.
to the council's closing position. John, can you just remind us what that was for front fence height control? Was that 1.5 solid plus the ability to put in trellis to take you up to 1.8, or the requirement to?
No, it was the PowerPoint slide before, so we'd have to flick back to it.
John, sorry.
1.2.
Can't read it.
Okay, I'll read the key points. It was 1.8 metres high,
Solid.
but so fences. So it's either 1.2 metres or the second Roman numeral is 1.8, but that could only be for 50% of the frontage, and the remainder would have to be no more than 1.2. So you couldn't, in the council's case, have a 1.8 metre high fence for the full frontage. You could only have that for 50% of the frontage, and then the remainder would have to be a maximum of 1.2. Alternatively, if you did have a 1.8 metre high fence, at least 50% of its total surface area would have to be visually permeable. So it is a fairly complex control, but it's trying to ensure that there is some degree of passive surveillance between the housing and the street, and a different streetscape outcome to allowing for a solid 1.8 or 2 metre high fence. So those are the provisions there. 1.2 as of right, 1.8 for 50% of the frontage, and then the balance would have to be 1.2. Or alternatively, if you did want to go up to the 1.8 for the full frontage, it would have to be 50% transparent by way of railings or trellising or the like.
Councillors, look, I support this. Having, for a good part of my life, gone up and down, God, what is the name of the road? East Tamaki Road, and out into Botany and Dannemora. It's basically like cannons to the left and cannons to the right. Yep. It's just a flat basic fence of 1.8 to 2 metres. And I just think we need to have greater flexibility, and or at least provide greater flexibility. I think, I understand where the IHP were coming from, but personal experience would suggest to me that if they visited East Tamaki Road, they'd get it. So, I will support the reject. So, anyone else? Councillor George.
So for fences that have to be replaced, I take it that, I think you said that they, existing your rights would prevail, is that correct?
If you were replacing like with like, then
Yeah.
you would have an existing use right to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I actually agree with you on this, Mr Mayor, that I
Oh.
think... I think that we have wall in, wall out kind of situation,
Yeah, yeah.
walling in, walling out, and it does get very impersonal, and as you say, we kind of end up with canyons where we're
It
living.
does, yeah.
So I think there has to be some
Councillor
cleaning
White.
or dumbing down of the high 2.5 metre wall is excessive, yeah.
Yeah, right now, sorry, I've got Councillor Building, Councillor Wayne.
If I recall correctly, there was a ability to get a dispensation for a structure plan or a design for big arterial routes and places like heavy truck movements and that sort of thing. John, in the actual, is that for a new subdivision?
As part of a new subdivision, if you getting down to that level of detail and showing where the fences are, you could apply for a consent right across the board for all of the new sections for fences of a certain height. You could do it that way as part of your subdivision consent. Alternatively, if it's just a homeowner wishing to infringe these controls that were on the screen before, it would require resource consent, restricted discretionary consent.